All right. So what I'd like to do with you in this video is to go through the energy centers. This is going to be a kind of crash course. I'm going to take you through the 9 energy centers and talk about defined and undefined themes of each energy center. So what is probably good to do is have your human design chart out and take a look at it. And what you'll see is, well, let's talk about what the energy centers are. We'll talk about what you see, and then I'll go through the themes of both defined and undefined centers, almost like a high level overview of everything. So, um, I guess you can skip around, but it might be interesting for you to understand what the different themes and manifestations of experience of defined and undefined centers are, whether you have a defined or undefined center. So there are 9 energy centers in human design. Each represents a unique energetic theme. Defined centers are innate energies that are always available to you, and undefined centers receive and interpret energy from your surrounding environment and the people around you. So there are different themes for the energy centers. You'll see here, just very lightly under all the text, is the human design chart, and basically you have the head, the ajna, the throat, the identity center, heart, spleen, sacral, solar plexus, and root. Um, if the shape if the shape has color, then it is a defined center for you. And if it is white, then it is undefined. So basically, a defined center is that fixed source of energy, and undefined is open and there to receive energy. Just a quick note about open energy centers. When there is an open energy center, it's really good to think of it almost in terms of a receiver, or to be receptive to that type of energy or that energetic theme. What can happen though is, because you probably had no idea or didn't think about receiving different types of energy in terms of receptivity, uh, you might find that there's something called conditioning, which is we can oftentimes take on the qualities of that particular energy center that might be opened or undefined in your chart, and feel like you have to operate from it. And from that, what you might find is that there are some specific challenges that you can experience as a theme of that energy center. So we'll get into some of those themes and talk about the keys of how to move around and move through that conditioning. So first, the open or the defined head center. The head center is the center for thoughts. So this center, with a defined head center, you have a consistent flow of inspiration ideas. The thoughts flow from your internal conscious experience. So it's almost like, as you're receiving, you have like a filter, and these are the thoughts that are specifically there for you to act on, to think about. So there's not really any question of whether or not these thoughts are things for you to consider. They're just a fixed part of your experience. So the potential here is to be a source of inspiration for others, and you can pose thought provoking questions from your unique experience. You may also be able to provide answers that uplift, inspire, and empower others. Sometimes you may challenge to communicate those inspirations and thoughts concretely and coherently. And it's possible to experience self doubt and depression when acting out of pressure to either find answers or to communicate ideas. So, in a sense, you have these ideas and they are inside you. And sometimes, if they're not able to come out, so you can internally experience them, but there may be a challenge in expressing them outwards, that can cause some self doubt, anxiety, and possibly depression, because the head center is a pressure center that wants to put these thoughts out into space. And if you're not able to do that, that could be a potential challenge for you. The key here is to simply accept the mental pressure without acting or escaping it. So, having a defined head center really just means that you have the thoughts and you can experience the thoughts. You don't need to necessarily do anything with them. Just know that these are your thoughts. They're fine for you to just live with. Of course, there are ways to kind of move through and express those things, and that kind of gets into a bigger discussion about the mechanics of your chart. We're not going to talk about that today. For a, where's my mouse? For an undefined head center. So, of course, this is again still the center for thought. With an open head center, an undefined head center means that there's no color in the shape. An open head center or an open energy center means there are no gates defined. So the little numbers will not be filled in with a little circle around it. For an open head center, you are open and receptive to inspiration and ideas from the environment. You're constantly taking in thoughts of the people and the environments around you. The potential here is to offer wisdom on the thoughts of others and to be wise about what is truly inspirational, which means that you can really identify a good idea when you hear it. The challenge can be to be caught up and distracted in the thoughts of others, and it's easy to get lost and overwhelmed with doubt and confusion. So, in some ways, because you're receiving all of these thoughts, I guess the idea is none of these thoughts necessarily are your own. So, it's not necessary for you to act on all of them. What's important and the key here is to rely on your authority to understand which thoughts are worthy of your energy so that you can go and act on those particular thoughts. So basically checking in with your authority to understand whether those thoughts are right for you, and then to release the pressure to act on all the inspiration you receive. The head center is also a pressure center again. So basically that means you have an intake of thought, and it may feel like pressure to act on those thoughts. What you want to consider is to release that pressure, because it's simply just the way that things are. You will potentially feel the pressure, and you can let go of the need to act on that. The next center is the defined ajna. So that's what we're going to talk about next. The ajna is the center for synthesis. It's how you make sense of thoughts. So with a defined ajna, you have a consistent way of thinking and processing information. There can be a sense of confidence and certainty when you arrive at the answers. And the potential here is to be able to conceptualize and process information in consistent ways. So you have a fixed and consistent approach in how you think about things, and it can be an inspiration or outer authority for others. So for those of you who may have a mental or a self authority, the defined ajna could really give you some inspiration or direction in terms of what is or how to kind of synthesize and use thoughts. It's also a source of creativity. The challenge here is wasting time on reanalyzing things that you've already decided or taken action on that really can't be changed. So almost like going back and kind of in a way rehashing the past, that type of thing. So the key here is to stop relying on the mind to make decisions. Lean into your authority. If you've listened to a whole bunch of human design content, you might realize that all the different authorities, none of them really are in the head or the ajna. So the mind is really not your decision making authority. It's kind of a good place to identify your intention or decide where to focus your intention, but the decision-making authorities really lie outside of the mind. The undefined ajna, it really has the capacity to evaluate possibilities and to decide what matters. You, with an open or undefined ajna, have a flexible and limitless way of thinking. The potential here is to have deep contemplation, to really discern and understand concepts that have value, and recognize who is best able to provide answers to the questions that are being considered. The challenge here is you may be thinking that to appear intelligent requires absolute certainty about ideas, and you may feel like you don't have that certainty because of this kind of open way of experiencing and open way of thinking. You may find that you may feel like you have to pretend to be certain about things that don't matter because of a fear of looking unintelligent. So the key here is to let go of other people's thoughts and beliefs and opinions and free yourself from their influence on your personal truth. So really to be comfortable with understanding that your experience is that experience of kind of discerning and thinking and experiencing different ways of thinking. And it's not necessarily that you feel uncertain, but there are maybe almost multiple ways to consider the same things, and it doesn't make you unintelligent. It simply is just your energy and your experience of this open center to have that personal truth of um, this flexible and limitless way of thinking. The next center down the way is the defined throat. And the defined throat, or the throat center, has the theme of communication. It's really to kind of express through who you are and what you're about. It's also the center of manifestation. So with a defined throat, you have consistent access to your voice. There are different energy centers that can be connected to the throat, and it really will define how you express yourself. The potential here is to have a natural confidence, and you tend to be a natural speaker as well. The challenge here is that it might be difficult to change your communication style or voice, and you may be blunt with words without being aware of the impact that it's having on other people. The key here is to rely on your strategy and your authority to know when to use your voice with the right timing for the fullest effect. So, understanding that, yes, you can always speak out. Sometimes it's not the right time to speak. So, using your strategy and authority to understand when is the right time will bring you into the best expression of your authenticity and your alignment. With the undefined throat, you have a flexible and spontaneous way of expressing yourself. There can be a variation in voice or the forms of expression, so kind of how your voice manifests and how you express yourself. The potential here is that you can recognize who is speaking authentically and who is not. So you can really be discerning about who is speaking from their alignment, from their core, from their authenticity. The challenge here may be a fear of being unnoticed. And also, there might feel like an amplified pressure to talk, act, or make an impression. The key is to learn to be comfortable with silence. You do not always have to be speaking. And when you speak, speak freely and spontaneously. So basically, again, thinking of that receptivity of an open or undefined center, it's to allow the words and the communication to simply flow without having to think too much about what you're putting out into space. After the throat center comes the identity center. So the identity center has the theme of direction and love, and basically with a defined identity center, also known as the G center, you have a consistent experience of self. You also have a fixed and reliable sense of self, being loved, and feeling lovable. The potential here is to have a good sense of the correct direction or the mission in your life, and a natural ability to point out direction for others. The challenge may be in providing direction or leadership without being asked or invited, and that can lead to resistance. So basically, if you're like, I think you need to go this way or you need to do that thing, you may be met with resistance if it's not welcome. You may also expect others to follow you. So the key here is to let go of that expectation and control of others. It's really to be firm in your understanding of self and just allow other people to be themselves as well, to observe and just look for the opportunities where you can provide direction. With the undefined identity center, you may have a fluid identity and experience of yourself. You may find that in different groups, you adapt your personality to the people that are around you and kind of can blend into any situation or environment. The potential here is to be able to identify environments that are not correct for you, and the ability to step into another person's shoes and offer the correct guidance and direction for that person. You also, because of this receptivity of the identity of other people, you can discern who is living their life authentically. The challenge here may be to struggle to know who you are, and you may find that you take on the identity of others. You may also be challenged in thinking that you have to change yourself to gain love and acceptance. So the key here is to find the right place for you, first of all. So find the right environments and the people to be around, and then let go of the need for identity and love. Your energy is not to have a fixed identity and maybe a fixed experience of love. It's to know that you can be receptive to those things and that you are loved regardless of how you may feel about that. Further down the chain is the defined heart. The theme of the heart is willpower. So it is the will to survive and thrive. The defined heart has consistent access to willpower. So this is about making and keeping promises, and this is a healthy drive towards action. So when you make promises, it really motivates you to kind of make sure that action happens. The potential here is to be strong-willed and to push others towards action, and you can be great at motivating others to push themselves when they are aligned with their strategy and authority. The challenge here can be you may be too forceful and have unrealistic expectations of others, and sometimes can be competitive, which may cause resistance with those around you. The key here is to express your ego and your will freely and to consult your strategy and authority before using your willpower on others. So basically, when you are using your willpower for yourself to will yourself towards action, that is the way that you want to use this energy. When you are looking to use your willpower to move other people, then you want to consult your strategy and your authority first to understand whether it's the right time and place to use that willpower to move others. The undefined or open heart center has inconsistent access to this drive and to the energy of willpower. You have the ability to see people for who they are and can really understand their self-esteem and capabilities. You have the potential to be able to identify healthy self-confidence and to understand who is capable of fulfilling their commitments. The challenge may be to feel unworthy and sometimes to settle for less. And one of the big challenges is you may feel forced to prove yourself. The key is to avoid making promises to yourself and to other people as a mode of kind of moving yourself forward, because that is really not the way for you to drive action in yourself. You want to also recognize that you have nothing to prove. Trust in your strategy and authority to guide you to what is best for you, and utilize this kind of like feeling. When you do feel like you are doing something to prove yourself, you may want to pause and remind yourself that you have nothing to prove, and then consider your strategy and authority to identify what the best actions are for you. The defined sacral, or the sacral energy center, has a theme of creation. It is the center that generates life force energy. So a defined sacral center generates energy that flows out and draws people in. So that's why generators and manifesting generators have open and magnetic auras, because they have defined sacrals, and this energy flows out and draws people in. It naturally attracts people and opportunities to you. So when you are working and living in your highest alignment, this will happen naturally. Your potential is to have abundant access to energy to carry through any tasks that are aligned with you and what you want to do. You have the ability to endure and persevere when you have agreement from your sacral authority. And that sacral authority, just quickly again, is that gut feeling of for a yes and for a no. The challenge here is that you can exhaust yourself trying to initiate. So if you are not responding to opportunities and rather trying to create opportunities for yourself, you can burn out your sacral battery or your sacral motor. You can feel frustrated by waiting for the right opportunity, leading to forcing things prematurely. And it can lead to compromising on what you want and entering into tasks and situations that you hate. So if you are feeling like you need to make something happen, you might want to just take a pause back and just pause for a moment and look at the things that are actually around you for you to respond to. The key here is to learn to wait for those opportunities to present themselves before initiating, and then, of course, always following your strategy and authority. Really avoid initiating without a sacral response. So because your energy type is open and magnetic, you're going to be pushing out these feelings and these experiences, and really it will pull these opportunities to you. Live your life, things will come. With an undefined sacral, you have an inconsistent access to life force and creative energy. So there's a natural inability to be continually busy. you may also be sensitive to the energy of the people around you. So, because 70% of people have defined sacral centers, for the people that do not, you might feel that there's a lot of this life force energy in the spaces that you might inhabit, and it might make you feel like you have to push through and do things. Really, you are receptive to this energy, so you can work off the energy of generators. It's also important for you to know when to rest. You also have the potential to step back and let others do the work when you are wise about that use of energy, and it's possible to have that amplified energy for short amounts of time. To learn the operation of the sacral motor and be wise about it is the best way of utilizing that type of open and undefined sacral center, because you can be wise about how others are using energy, and you can really help to direct the efficient and wise use of that energy. You may find challenges in overcommitting and taking on too much, and you might feel a difficulty in saying no. It may also feel like there's an internal pressure to work, and you might be overwhelmed and exhausted by the energy of others. The key here is to set appropriate boundaries and to recognize the physical signs of exhaustion and make sure that you are taking the appropriate breaks instead of pushing through. We still got a couple energy centers to go, so let's push through. Just as I said, we're not. You have to be wise about when not to put through. So the defined emotional center, or the solar plexus, is the center for emotion. The theme here is it has the potential to experience emotions. With the defined solar plexus, you have a fixed and consistent experience of emotion and emotional energy. You experience the ups and downs of life in a consistent way. So you can think about this as an emotional wave, basically a consistent up and down flow of emotions. You have the potential to experience a rich depth of emotions and to cultivate the different insights as you experience life through the lens of different emotions. The challenge here can be driven to make decisions based on emotion rather than clarity, and you may be fighting against the emotional waves, leading to seeking the highs and avoiding the lows. Really, the important thing here is that to recognize and to accept your experience, that you will experience highs and you will experience lows. The highs will be followed by lows, which will be then again followed by highs. This is simply the natural experience of your emotional center. So the key is to learn and wait and ride the emotional waves so that you can come to clarity before making a decision. An undefined solar plexus is receptive to emotional energy of other people and receptive to emotional energy in the environments that surround you. So you are able to take in emotional energy and amplify it. The potential here is that you can be an emotional barometer for the emotional health of the people and environments that surround you. You can also understand who's moving towards emotional health, stability, and self-awareness. So the challenge here for you is that you could be driven and overwhelmed by an emotional environment, and you may avoid confrontation to avoid negative emotions. There may also be a struggle to set boundaries and advocate for your own needs. The key here is to protect your energy by observing them, really thinking about that receptive idea that the emotions are coming to you, and to avoid being a sponge and holding on and taking on the energy of others. Really thinking about experiencing and feeling that emotion move through you, and then allow it to move through you rather than holding on to those feelings. The spleen center, or the splenic center, is the center for safety and intuition and well-being. With the defined spleen, you have consistent access to instinct and intuitive knowing in the present. It's designed to live moment to moment while listening to your intuition and instincts. Your potential here is a couple. So with a defined spleen, you may have a strong immune system. You also have a consistent way of processing fear that leads to deep safety and security. And when your authority is splenic, you can trust in your intuitive sense of knowing in the now and really act spontaneously. The challenge here is that you can take on too much and overwhelm yourself, leading to sudden burnout or unforeseen health problems. For those with splenic authority, ignoring your intuition or instincts can lead to physical health problems. And for the defined spleen with emotional authority, following your intuition without feeling through your emotional waves can lead to further physical health problems. The key here is to familiarize yourself with and utilize your strategy and authority to make decisions that are aligned for you to take action. And with that splenic authority, it's to trust that intuition, that knowing in the now. With an undefined spleen center, your intuition and instincts are not always a reliable source of decision making in the present. So you can experience intuition and instinct in flexible and variable ways. The capacity to experience the fears of others, and you can also develop a sense of what is healthy for other people. The potential here is to attune to your body's needs and to understand the importance of maintaining physical well-being. You can also observe fears and learn not to react or fix problems impulsively. It's important for you in this scenario to be wise about health and illness in other people and understand what might be out of balance. The challenge here is to try to always feel good to compensate for natural physical ups and downs through diet, therapy, relationships, or helping others. So always moving to that feel good kind of place. And you could be caught up in the feeling of temporary physical illness and identifying with that feeling rather than letting it flow through. So again, that idea, because of openness, is to be receptive to these things, but not hold on to them. You may feel like you have to be spontaneous to get rid of fear and take unnecessary risks, and you may become dependent or possessive in relationships. The key here is to learn to let go of what is no longer good for you and to release the attachment to external people to help you feel good. Now, coming on to the last center is the root center. The root is the center for drive. And with a defined root center, you have a consistent and internal way of experiencing and processing stress and pressure. You can feel an internal pressure to be productive as well. The potential here is to have a fixed way of releasing and processing stress, to be comfortable with your own needs, and you may use stress as the fuel to drive creative processes and other endeavors. Another potential is to use the pressure to use pressure around others without placing stress on those around them. So you can really drive and move things forward without kind of pushing other people into places where they might feel uncomfortable. The challenge here is if the pressure is repressed, it's often repressed in an effort to please others and can build up, which may result in physical and emotional problems. You may also expect others to be capable of handling the same amount of pressure, which can overload or overpower others. So the key here is to act on pressure only if it is rooted in a place of stillness or a sense of joy. And finally, the undefined or open root center. It's a center that is sensitive to the pressures from the environment and the people surrounding them. With an open center, you can cultivate a natural stillness and gain wisdom of healthy versus unhealthy stress. The potential here is to experience the rush of adrenaline of stress without being overwhelmed by it, and to be resistant to the pressure to act quickly. More pressure can have the opposite effect. So if you're feeling pushed, you may feel like pulling back. It could cause you to withdraw back into that experience of stillness. And really, because of that receptive nature, you can gain wisdom on how stress functions and what the best use of stress is. The challenge is that you might feel rushed to act when experiencing external pressure, and you might make impulsive decisions when pushed by others. It's also possible to get carried away by the rush of pressure and to get overwhelmed and burned out. And finally, feeling unable to stop and unwind without feeling lazy. The key here is to utilize your authority to guide decisions and to let go of conditioned habits to rush and overproduce endlessly. So the root center is another one of those pressure centers where the energy is coming in. So with an open energy center, it's important to take a pause and just recognize that that pressure is not something that you have to operate from. So That was a crash course or a high level overview of all the different types of energy centers, the open and the undefined, with their potentials, their challenges, and keys to operating and utilizing those themes for your maximum benefit. Of course, there is much deeper to dive in and really to reflect through some of these things. What I find helpful is to look at the defined energy centers, identify the themes or the challenges that may be coming up for you in your own life, and to contemplate them and consider the keys that I've shared with you in this video. Many things and most things, and I might even say all things in human design, generally come back to strategy and authority. So, understanding if you are operating with identifying opportunities with strategy and using authority to make decisions, then you will naturally move into alignment. Sometimes, with whether it's conditioning that we've taken on from our previous experience, or just operating in different ways, maybe situations where we feel stressed and burnt out and are not operating at our best, it may become difficult to look at the strategy and authority purely as a guide for your alignment. So, understanding some of these themes becomes really important in understanding how you can kind of like work through these things. So, when you identify them, what I find helpful is to think about the key and almost give yourself like a statement or like a reminder that you can easily say to yourself to kind of let go of the energies that are not for you. Thank you for your time. It's nice to see you. I will end things there. And until the next time, hit me up on socials, message me if you know me, and ask me any questions.